And my guest in person of Providence Akpa is a multi-skilled and versatile occupational health, safety and environment professional with over 20 years of experience. Yes, he has worked as line manager in corporate organizations and has also managed health, safety and environment in several projects that cut across various industries. Providence is very passionate about preservation as well as improving the environment in, consonant with sustainable development goals, occupational health and safety in the workplace. Now, thank you very much for being my guest this morning. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we'll be going straight into the views from the net. So, Great is saying, in my opinion, organizations should face lawsuits when they are found guilty of negligence. And if possible, there should be a body that comes in regularly to check the safety of their facilities. What's your take on this? Because this person is probably talking from what they think should be. I mean, maintenance culture, you always have to come and check it. So what's your take on what Great has said?
Thank you for having me in the first place. The primary reason why we have a weak occupational health and safety practice in our workplace is enforcement. We can't say we don't have laws.
Of course.
Of course, we have Factory Act 2004. Even though it needs to be reviewed, we have occupational health and safety bill in the National Assembly since 2012. But what we have for now, the enforcement there is very weak. For example, now in Nigeria, it is the duty of Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, Factory Inspectorate precisely under Occupational Health and Safety Department to enforce the safety in the workplaces. But you ask them, they will tell you that they have few inspectors throughout the Federation. So that is one of the major reasons, enforcement. Another reason is political will. Some of these organizations we are talking about, industries and corporate organizations this time around, they are directors, they are chairmen, they are the owners, the big shots in the society, the politicians. Do you get it? So how do you enforce it? Even if the inspectorates go to the factories or the workplace or industrial workplace to enforce them, they will just make a call. A call they will make will now advise you if you would like to keep your job or if you want to enforce it and go from there.
So that's lawlessness we can see. All right, let's move on to another view from the net at this time, discussing the question, what is your take on negligence or lack of property maintenance in organizations? Now, this one is from Favor, all the way from Asaba in Delta State. I think that those that head an organization don't value lives, because if they did, they would fix whatever facility or equipment that is faulty in their organizations to ensure that no one gets hurt or, lose their lives as a result of negligence and indifference. I believe supervision should be conducted periodically and measures be put in place to ensure that these organizations take these things seriously. Okay, so, I mean, Favor has said her piece as well as regards this, and looking also at the importance, the need for periodic checks. So what exactly, as looking away from just periodic checks, what do you think of organizations and valuing lives of their staff and themselves too, just as Favor has said?
No, primarily, the law requires the employer to ensure the safety of their workers. That is what the law says about it. Now, to enforce this, the employer will now set up a management system to ensure that everybody that comes to his organization goes back the way he comes. Now, one of the ways to do it is to implement effective safety management system that will work. Now, you find out that many organizations, they are actually after making money, and they don't have the interest of their workers. They fail to realize that the asset they have in that organization is their workers. So any organization that values their workers and that wants to secure the life and the property of their organization will set up a policy. That's what we call safety culture. And under safety culture, we have what is called organizational culture. Organizational culture is how we do things here. And safety culture is all about what the people think about safety? What did they think? What are they feeling? Now, generally in the organization, they think that safety is all about the employer's responsibility. As long as my salary is going, I don't have problem. But they forget to realize that safety will be possible. Safety in the workplace will be possible if the employer plays its role,
Yes.
if the workers cooperate and play their own role, and then if the stakeholders also play their own role. And this is possible by consultation, involvement, and participation of these three parties I've mentioned so far. So in any organization where these three things are lacking, definitely there will be no safety culture in place. And when there is no safety culture in place, you'll be seeing what we are seeing in our organizations today.
All right, so I mean, we need to have safety culture measures. I mean, not just for the employer, for the employee at this time.
Safety culture generally in the organization,
Okay.
not per the stakeholder. It exists in the organization.
All right.
But to make it possible, it involves these three stakeholders: the employers, the employee, and the other interested parties.
And the other interest. Okay, let's look at what Chinaza is saying from Lagos. Sometimes it's cost saving or penny pinching that causes this. If its consequences is critical or the functionality of that device, tool, equipment is key to the production of that company, then it's best addressed immediately. For instance, there's a monthly budget to be spent as regards office expenses and a minor issue comes up. Say a light bulb is in the passage or in the general office area and it doesn't necessarily impact the outcome and productivity of the staff. If it falls within budget and doesn't push other pressing issues down, issues down the line, it'll be better to fix immediately. But if otherwise, it can be overlooked till the next month. Okay, so this person is talking about maybe, having a budget in place for, these safety measures and, now giving an example of if a light bulb goes out. If one light bulb goes out, maybe in an office setting, if the place is well illuminated, people will not even be bothered. So what do you think about that?
See, if an organization has safety management system in place, all these things they are saying will take care of itself. A system is just defining what you want to do, who does what, who is responsible for what, how do you want to do it, what is the arrangement you put in place. For example, if you have safety management in place, you see the employer maybe represented by the managing director, depending on the structure of the organization, now casting a vision for the organization as in respect to safety. Now, he now comes up and then develop policy. In this policy, he tells us what he expects or what he wants to do or the arrangement he has made in place to ensure the safety of the workers. Then he put up safety committee. Okay. Safety committee here has to do with picking minimum of 2 persons from different departments in that organization, and then develop their capacity in the area of safety.
All right.
Do you get it? Depending on the structure of your organization. Why we say minimum of 2 persons is because in cases where you want to have meetings, one person in a department might be absent, definitely the other person will come in. So you pick minimum of 2. Let's assume you have 5 departments in your organization. 2 into 5 places is just 10. Then begin to develop their capacity. Then maybe you have meeting with them once in a week. Once in a week, 1 hour or 2 hours, or once in 2 weeks. Now, when you do this in the 3 months, 3 months, for example, or 6 months or 1 year, you find out that you are developing capacity whereby they go back to their various departments and then communicate what they have learned in those meetings to their colleagues in their different places. Now, this will enable them to know their own duty, the responsibility of the employer, the responsibility of the employee, and the responsibility of the stakeholders. All these things are partnership. It is not just in isolation. It is not employer must provide all these things. Now, for example, what the responder is just saying there, you find out that if there is safety management system in place, there's a place of risk assessment. There is a place of inspection. There's a place of walkout checks. There's a place of weekly inspection. There's a place of monthly inspections. All these things, you come up with them in a report. And these are what the regulators want to see when they come to your organizations. But you see, instead of complying when the regulators come, you look for a way of giving them brown envelope. And they also needed that brown envelope. They go with it. But if you do the right thing and they come, you take them to your conference table. Welcome. This is what I met here. I resumed in this capacity in this particular time. This is what I have done. This is what I want to do. This is what I have done. And these are some of the challenges I'm having. And this is where I actually want to go. Now, advise me.
Okay.
They now know that they also have an input as a regulator. Instead of just coming around, make it wee thing, at the end of the day, you greet yourself, take them around, give them brown envelope, and they go. The thing remains.
All right. It is very surprising that people or a company would spend thousands and millions to buy equipment, but then they don't spend, or earmark monies to ensure that these equipment last them for, for as long as it should by maintaining them. What exactly is the reason? Why exactly is that the mindset of many organizations?
In workplace occupational health and safety, we emphasize primarily on protection of life, number one. Then you now talk about property.
Okay.
And you now talk about environment. You talk about life, you talk about environment, you talk about property, you talk about reputation. These are the four emphases, not just property. Now, to address these four things, it is what I have been saying. Develop effective safety management system. We don't have it in our organization. Safety management system is not just installing fire extinguisher. It is not just marking your factory or your workplace with yellow line and tell us this muster point. It is not just employing safety officers. All these things are good. But when you set up a safety management system, we have ISO 45001, for example. That's one of the standards you can set up in your organization. It will address all these things. Now, coming to your question about maintaining equipment, you find out that those equipment are actually there for efficiency. And to be frank, the cost of maintaining them is very, very expensive. And equipments like lifts and other major infrastructures you find in the workplace requires high technical competence to fix them or to maintain them, and they are very expensive. And we have few of them in our climate. If it is in developed country, where we have many of them. Some of these people that take care of this equipment are actually brought in from abroad. Few that are trained there, of course, Japa syndrome, when they finish, they remain there. Do you get it? But the truth is that every organization try as much as they can to fix it. But I will not fail to remark that most organizations have their own peculiar challenge. It could be administrative bottleneck. It could be office politics. Do you get it? It could be the structure they met there. It could be, for example, government facility. They have their own peculiar structure. And they have, but if it is in average workplace, corporate organization, the law requires that the managing director is the sole responsible person in that organization. And he has the duty of employing responsible personnel that he will hold accountable to ensuring maintenance and overseeing the supervision of all this infrastructure we are talking about. For example, we should have HSE manager, we should have facility managers. And you look at this organization, we don't have them. And some people that we have there, they are not qualified. They are not qualified. Yep. What are the requisite qualifications for HSE manager or facility manager? Because I'm the MD of XYZ company and I have a younger brother, a cousin, or a niece or whatever that is looking for a job, and for me it's an opportunity to give him that responsibility without going through the relevant training. Right. And he may not know what he's supposed to do. And that's where we see some of these problems. Okay,
so HSC managers and facility managers, do they have different roles?
Yeah.
So that means in a company, it's ideal for you to have both. But can one actually have just an HSC and professional and just, without a facility manager? Would that actually suffice?
Now, let me advise that it depends on the structure and the size of your organization. So that you go into you not go into what you cannot be able to sustain. Look at what you can afford and engage professionals to advise you accordingly. For example, if you have a sizable organization, say 20, 10 to 20, or 30 employers, or 50 as the case may be, it's advisable you develop a structure whereby, depending on the size of the facility, you can employ facility manager that will take care of the facility so as to preserve the lifespan of the facility. Generally in Nigeria, we have this poor maintenance culture. If you go to government facilities, we have that problem, whether federal or state, we have that challenge. Now, to talk of a sizable workplace now, you can now employ safety manager or safety officer. What are their duties? To ensure the safety of workers. Number one, to ensure their safety. We're not talking about, that is, we want to prevent accidents from happening. We want to ensure that they did not sustain injury, whether by tear and wears or by impartation or by being exposed by virtue of the job they are doing. That is the job of that safety manager. Okay. And he will also help you to ensure there is arrangement in place in case of emergency. Is that okay? There's emergency arrangement. You see, in our climb here, when there is incident, you find out that is when we remember that our fire extinguisher has expired. We don't have a truck to fight the fire extinguisher. We don't have sprinklers. Don't have this arrangement. But if there is a proper safety management system, emergency preparedness in place, you find out that if there is emergency, those systems will trigger themselves. Okay. They don't need to be running helter-skelter. Now, for a safety professional you employ there, the goal is accidents should not happen. That is the essence of risk assessment. We don't want accident to happen. So you make proper arrangements in place so that accident will not happen. Now, should accidents happen, you ensure that those accidents are controlled as soon as possible so that people will not be exposed. Now, if your arrangement, that is when you put an arrangement in place. Now, if your arrangement fails, then you should have an arrangement whereby to evacuate your workers to a safe place of safety at a minimum time, at a minimum response time. What is the minimum response time there? Average of 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 5 minutes, below. Do you get it? You keep working down. That is when you come up with drilling system, drilling arrangement to test your emergency response preparedness in your workplace. Okay, so these are the things we are lacking in our organizations. Okay. But I want to commend Lagos State government, because among 36 states and FCT in Nigeria, they are the only state that has a commission for safety, Lagos Safety Commission. I will encourage other states to emulate them. Lagos Safety Commission has done a lot of work, both in public safety and work on industrial safety. All right. So speaking of, that's government leadership. Yes. That shows leadership. Now, what's the role of leadership in promoting a culture of preventive maintenance and, that sense of ownership for staff members, so that it is not just the leader that is thinking about it, but there's a preventive maintenance culture in the workplace? Now, if you remember when I started, I did mention 4 elements. These 4 elements are very, very important if you must have a safety management system in your workplace that will work. Number 1 is leadership commitment. I will talk about that. Leadership commitment. We'll talk about policy, safety policy. You talk about safety committee, and you talk about training. When we talk about leadership commitment, all these things we are talking, or any arrangement you are making in the organization without leadership commitment, is just a waste of time. How do we know leadership commitment? Leadership commitment is a kind of leadership that demonstrates commitment in the area of making resources available. What do I mean? By giving safety a priority over other contending factors. In the workplace, they have contending factors. What are their contending factors? Every business exists to make money. So number 1 is cost, money. they have limited funding. Is that okay? So they want to make sure they utilize it. Now, they have limited time to produce, to deliver their resources. Is that okay?
Of course, yes.
And now, they have, now, when we talk of giving safety priority over other contending factors, is making sure that you give safety arrangements that we ensure that you put this relevant safety requirements in place before others. Now, how would you know a leadership that demonstrates commitment? It is by providing these resources, providing qualified personnel, not just bringing his brother or sister or somebody he knows to man a relevant position. The person must have competence, the person must have experience, the person must have qualification. Then the next thing is the person must allow time, give resources of time. Sometimes in organization, they don't allow safety to practice. They tell you that they are lack of time. They are short of time. So he must allow time. So, and he must demonstrate exemplary leadership, making himself available and then walk the talk. This is how you can demonstrate leadership. And when you put this thing in place, it will motivate your workers to cooperate with you in the arrangement you have placed. The next thing there is policy. The policy, safety policy there will tell us what are the arrangements you have made in place, what is your plan, what is your philosophy about the safety of your workers. You put it there in paper. What are the arrangements you have put in place? What are the emergency preparedness in place? Is that okay? Do you have fire extinguishers? Do you have trained personnel to handle them? Who is responsible for what? What would average person or average worker or average visitor or stakeholder in your organization do should there be emergency? They should know all these things.
Okay.
Now, the next one is safety committee. I've talked about it. And the last one, the fourth item there is training. Very, very important. You have to invest in training. What kind of training? We have safety orientation. Safety orientation is given to people that are coming to your organization newly, new employees. Of course, we have recorded many incidents in the country, in our various organizations, where people that resumed to the workplace, the first day they resumed, they died.
Wow. Because
they were not administered the right safety orientation. So you have to give them safety training. So the next people you need to train again are your workers. Let them change their perception about safety.
All right, so I mean, I have to cut you there. Changing perception about safety. Now, in situations where there is some kind of resistance, whether from employees, because some employees will come up and say, where I worked before, there were safety measures. Please, can we imbibe that here? Or maybe management is trying to instill that in the staff. When there is a resistance, whether from employers or management, what can one do in that situation? Quickly.
Remember, I talked about organizational culture. I said it means how we do things here. Probably when you resume to this particular place you are working now, you came with innovations, new idea. You got some resistance. We don't do it here. This is how we do it here. It is everywhere. Now, it is the work of the management to put a system in place that will inform, that will sell his ideas about safety. Now, that is the reason why it is good for every organization to employ safety officer or safety manager, depending on his capacity. What is the job of a safety manager? To market safety. Safety is just like a product. You market it to your employees. You sell it to them. Let them know why they should be safe. Let them know that they are here to add value, but they should also remember that they have dependents at home. That if anything should happen to them here, it is a chain reaction. They have children that will lose their parents or lose their father or mother because of accidents. They have aged parents that will also lose their children or their son. Do you get it? So it is the job of a safety officer to market safety as a product.
All right,
and it is the job of employer to employ safety officer to do that.
Marketing safety, I learned that. I mean, I know I'm never going to forget that. But now, on a final note, this in about 30 seconds, if you can. The economy is going through a whole lot, and business owners are suffering from it. How can a business owner now have the mindset of safety and, make it a part of, their organization with this economic hardship that is ongoing, to ensure that, you know, maintenance culture is there while also not, you know, breaking the bank?
Now, let me tell you the truth. As a businessman, you want to make money, give safety a priority. As a business owner, you want to save money, give safety a priority. Do you get it? Now, when you prioritize safety, you realize that you are saving cost. Now, incident just happened last week. You remember?
Yes.
Somebody died. We lost a medical doctor. Is that okay? Now, can I ask you, what do you think is the cost of a life? How much do you think will be given to somebody or a worker to lose his life? You can't pay for a life. Now, when accident happens, a lot of things goes wrong. Number one, if there is fatality, that's if there is loss of life, we have lost the person. The person cannot come back to life. Number two, how can you pay for the emotional pains you have inflicted to the family of the deceased? The person that are even incur sustained injury in the workplace, how can you pay for that pains that is going through? It is true that the organization can pay medical bills. It is true that the organizations can pay compensation. But what about the indirect cost? The indirect cost is about 20 times painful, 20 times higher than the direct cost. Because when accidents happen, an organization could lose its reputation. Do you know the leverage of an organization? His reputation. Mention any brand. His celebration, his achievement, his selling point is his reputation. And when accidents happen, that reputation can just go into the air by just a flick of the fingers. Do you get it?
Yes.
So when we talk of safety, it's a serious business. Safety, investment in safety is actually a way of saving your resources. It's actually a way of making money. But some people look at safety as a cost. It's not a cost. When you invest in safety, all these incidents we are talking about will disappear.